Hello world, welcome back to the Pocket Gamer podcast with your host, me, Brian Baglow, and our leading lady of lifetime value. In fact, the ROAS royalty, Miss Peggy Ansalts. Hello Peggy, it's been a good few weeks. How are you?
It has been, Brian, but it's always so cheerful to have you back, to be together with you on the show, and you come with these phrases. I just love it. But it's good to be back. It's a little bit of a sense of deja vu for me because we're back almost with the same setup we had not too long ago with the same guests. But first, just a little bit about your world, Brian. How have you been?
I have been very well, thank you. It's the school summer holidays here in Scotland. We're on week 6. As you and our producer Animesh pointed out, I'm looking okay for it, given that it's 6 weeks into my 7-year-old's summer holidays. I've packed him off to Holiday Club. I am working on this national strategy for video games for Scotland, which is coming along.
What you're doing, Brian, is so important. Your contribution is huge. And speaking
Thank you very
about a
much.
huge contribution, let's come to our guest because, as I said, it's a bit of a deja vu in a sense, and it's always great to have a company that's crossed not just 1 billion downloads, but steaming towards 2 billion. They have done so much, not just great games, but some great strategy moves. So, our guest today, back again, is Chief Marketing Officer at TapNation. And we've had him talk about ad experience before. Well, today he's going to talk about his own experience at TapNation. So, Vincent Fevrier, it is great to have you back again and in such good company because I think you have some very good news for us as well. So, let's do it. Let's let it rip.
Excited to be here, Brian and Peggy. Thanks so much for having me again. 3 weeks ago was super exciting to be on board with the Harbor team as well, and getting a bit more podcasts out of the way. And it's great to connect with you to see the summer is keeping up in terms of activity. It's more intense than ever for us still, with a lot of news happening, a lot of things happening at Tap Nation. So there's no much holiday, to be honest. There's no much pause for the hardworking people out there, especially when we're still on a super growth phase and have big ambition for this end of the year and next year to come. So yeah, super excited to come here, open up a bit more about myself, open up a bit more about Tap Nation, who we are, what we've been so far, and what are the next milestone for us in the coming years and the end of this year, which for sure will keep us at top of the news and a good changing and a good evolving experience for everyone.
You are, of course, at Tap Nation. You started in monetization. Now you're leading UA, monetization, creative, ASO, team of 30 people in a company of total 80 staff. Acquiring UA Hero, I wrote about it in Forbes. We wrote about it on Pocket Gamer. We're just hearing so much about Tap Nation. So how's it all fit together? What is everything comes together at a point, and you have 80 in staff. Is that still where you are? Are you still hiring more?
We are closer to 90 people as we speak now.
Oh,
There's been a few more hires in the
okay.
last 2 3 months, as we grow the team, try to build a solid structure as well on the tech product side. And as you say, we have you acquired you a hero, but now we need to finish also the product. So
Mhm.
team are complementing, and we are growing with more games. So it's important to complement. So yeah, about 90 people now.
Where are you hiring? I'm just curious because I've heard, for example, that creative directors and creative is really big. Um, game design is huge. Where did you make your hires?
Product has been an important part in the last 2 3 months. As you know, hyper casual, we could let most of the studio handle on the product and roadmap and development side. Nowadays, as we switch to more hybrid casual, casual game, and in the latest acquisition at the beginning of this year, we need to strengthen and solidify our internal product team. So we have Alex Kameda, who joined us as a head of product, is a solid profile who's been working in the past with studio like Rovio or Scopely. So it's really an addition and help us like shine out there, show the pivot we're doing in diversification outside of hyper casual. And then as we getting also more solid product, we need a bit more QA tester people. We did have a couple of hires on the creative front as well, because creative, as we know, is very central and crucial in keeping all your games up to the trend. We see the new trends with AI. We see the new trends with UGC. Playable is taking more and more space, so you need definitely people to complement on that. As well as on the UA front, you get those bigger IP share kind of games with casual games. So our team as well need to level up on the user acquisition front. So recently have a new user acquisition senior UA manager, Marina, who joined us from Miniclip. So really, you see, we're really like leveling up our talent as well from AAA studio, and that's the path for us to succeed and achieve with our goals, as well as solidifying the rest of the developer and live ops team has been important. So a bit about all division, are strengthening on that front, yeah, in terms of new hires. So welcome to them. I think it's an exciting journey, and still a very family-sized team at TapNation, and we're excited to have them help us keep building the future of TapNation.
That's fantastic. And in a period where there's such uncertainty and so many layoffs in the games sector, I think it's a testament to what TapNation is doing. So tell us, Vincent, the company is growing and evolving, and the same goes for the marketplace. Has there been any kind of significant shift in your approach to marketing? Even with the move from hyper casual to hybrid casual, what's been changing for you?
So for sure, it's becoming harder and more complex to run UA. Scan came many years ago. Hopefully, they're improving a little bit their features for attribution, for the schema conversion value. So it's getting there slowly to help us get back onto iOS. New players are talking as well to open up back iOS. I'm thinking of Meta, for example. So hopefully, it will get back interestingly. But in terms of diversification, in terms of how we can find new growth pocket, there is more and more UA channel and UA sources out there in the market. So for sure, one of the flexibility of TapNation has been to be able to test, run, and confirm new potential UA channel. And as it gets loaded, offer wall, rewarded network, cost per engagement network have definitely be one of our UA growth source, and it's been of great help, because some games nowadays, depending on the vertical, how they are built, and the competition, those kind of engagement network are definitely growing in terms of space, growing in terms of share, and we see that they have a good potential out there to stay, because we understand that more and more gamer and users nowadays want to be rewarded for their engagement, want to be committed for their engagement. So it has a good pocket, and we saw a few new players entering the market and having very fast growth on that type of UA potential. Social as well is very important, as we mentioned, with the growth, fast growing of TikTok and UGC content. It's important out there to use well those sources. So maximizing the use of those such creatives and such social channel has been also important for us. And then, as I mentioned, hiring special profiles with more backgrounds on casual games, IP games, and focusing more on the data. As we're looking into longer break-even, longer retention games, it's getting very important for us to build those team, train them, but as well like gain some new knowledge and new learnings from much bigger studio who have been there on those type of games for a very long time. So yeah, and so today how we do is how we used to do UA before, with more like hyper casual game and 30 days break even. Today we're looking at much longer term forecast and projection. So not only 1 or 2 years, but we're looking into 3 to 4 years lifetime of a game, how we build the P&L around such game and help us create the development and the product team around those games. So that help us to hire the right profile, make the right investment, and know that it's not just a short-term gain, but really a long-term investment, a long-term production roadmap, improvement of such games. So we're ready to sacrifice a little bit of the early months let's say, margin or profitability, because in the long term, we're building a solid product that's going to be here lasting for 3-4 years. And that's where we're looking at a much a longer window. Yeah.
So it's now 3-4 years a window for a hybrid casual game as opposed to what for a
So
hyper casual?
what I want to say here is that usually with hyper casual we'll be a bit more dependent and looking at 1-2 year prediction, forecast,
Yeah.
projection. With much solid retention, IP share of games, now we're able to build P&L and forecast model up 3-4 years ahead, even longer, in order to make the strategic investment, to make the strategic roadmap processes, because we know that those games are going to be here for a longer time. Yes.
Product, yeah, product is also marketing. How does that work with you? Because you said yourself you're hiring a lot of people focused on products. So you're looking, I would imagine, at product-led growth. But product, when it works really well, it goes back in marketing. So what does that look like at Tap Nation, where one is sort of feeding into the other?
Exactly, and it's true that we used to be very marketing focused, and then the product will follow. Nowadays, it's getting a little bit more balanced, or at least shifting. Um, Product is really becoming central, because we are making the product for our users, and for high quality users, for much higher retention. And then that's for our marketing strategies also adapting to this, and the way we are promoting our games, where we're buying, where we're spending to acquire new users. So if you want to look at those quality users, we're opening up more towards, as I mentioned, social, DSPs, but also the way we run the marketing and the creative is also having an impact. And we see that playables, the diversification of creative, the gameplay you want to show, the IP you want to show. So we're taking much more the product, the final games, and that's what is diversifying our creative strategy. So how are we looking at maybe longer break even, but at the same time looking higher quality users by demonstrating the game as much as possible, by demonstrating all the features, the upgrade, the IP possibilities that they have into the games, and trying to make it the most attractive as possible. Um, There's a lot of new techniques as well that we're observing with retargeting network, how we create deep linking into the game. So, those are the type of users you can re-engage, and you want to redirect at a certain moment, at a certain point in the game that they have already reached, or where they were about to reach the next level. So all those strategy create a much open new possibilities that we didn't have before with hyper casual, that really open up the chances to engage or create new engagement or re-engage with existing user, for example.
It's clearly working, Vincent, because as we said at the top of the programme, in terms of growth, you've reached 1 billion downloads last year, 4 years after you were founded, which is kind of impressive. So, how do you attribute that success? Is it this seamless kind of mix between products and marketing? Where do you think the success has come from?
Maybe also I can jump back and talk about our culture and our value. As we said, TapNation was launched in 2019, late 2019, and very quickly the company, with very minimal investment, saw a fast growth with our first game, Ice Cream or Guess the Answer, for example, that are still there, that are still very much at the top in terms of revenue, in terms of profitability. And that was defined by our founder and CEO, Hervé, and the founding team that has been here, very early members, a young team, but a very determined and ambitious team. So today we like to define our value as peace, piracy first. So piracy is finding the smart way to go to your goal, getting the shortcut, and not following the kind of processes or big lines, but rather thinking smart and thinking fast to achieve what other people will not do in the same methodology, maybe a bit less, I would say, clerical or religious way, but getting that to the point. So piracy, equity is also very important, is that we give a chance to all our team members. We want to be as much as transparent and flat organization as possible. So everybody's there out there in the office, reachable with Hervé, myself. It's very important that everybody feels on the same level and the same opportunity. The ambition is really what's driving us as well. So really sharing our goal, sharing our ambition of a fast and growth, and sharing that with the rest of the team transparently has been really motivating everyone. Creativity is definitely also for the C very important, because we need to renew ourselves all the time, as we know, and as we see, as we run creative as well. Creative fatigue is important, but creativity, reimagining the type of games and the type of way we can reach to our users has been key. And finally, effectiveness. We don't want over people, we don't want over processes, but rather go straight to the point, being effective, and being taking action as soon as we focus. We see an issue, we take time to deep dive on it. So I think that's the luck, and that's how we remain a small organization. It allows us to be much more adaptable, faster to answers, and that's what really has been driving our identity in the last 4 years, and that's how finding the right studio, having a small team working with Asian studio, European studios, help us to really source the right titles and grow quickly, as well as I mentioned, running UA aggressively, being very smart in finding the new UA channel sources, as well as being good at improving the LTV and the monetization of our game in terms of ad revenue, and maintaining those games rather than hyper casual will often see a downtrend. So all that combined, and the determination, the team engagement, and team motivation has made us reach this billion downloads. So I think it's a whole kudos and dedication of each team members that have been participating towards the same similar goal and sharing those value with every team member. Yeah.
The next billion downloads, with the move to hyper casual and the ongoing change in the market, the next billion downloads, do you think they're going to be more difficult to come by?
It's indeed partly true, because we now diversifying and not only look at the hyper casual high volumes, but look also more at the quality of games and retention. So over a period of time, since we have three new games, and we can talk about them later, as I mentioned, like RPG game with Hero Adventure and Hero Making Tycoon that are 50% IAP, and Worldling, which is a world puzzle game with about 10-15% IAP, but a much longer retention and much longer break even. We're looking more at the high quality users and targeting a specific segment of users, versus hyper casual is very much for the mass, very much about volumes. So here we keep our existing hyper casual title, but in the mix of new games that we're publishing this year and in coming years, we'll see a bit more of those games. So of course, this diversification would potentially slow down a little bit the next billion download, but we are very much on path to reach it. I think sometimes mid of next year or early next year. So we're keeping our DNA of hyper casual. We believe there's still room there for hyper casual to exist, because otherwise we're going to be like the old very large audience players spending their time, and there's still ads there. The big players, the AAA guys that are the big IP guys, they need to spend their US somewhere. They need to show ads, and if you've got an only IAP games, you're not showing ads. So hyper casual is where you can find those users that are spending times on the side of big casual games. Yeah.
Retention is what you're focused on. Share a little bit, lift a little bit of the lid about how you are reaching these retention metrics, because sometimes it's about the game progression. Sometimes it's just about the communication that you attribute it maybe to, nudges and notifications at the right time. Because let's face it, loyal users are made, not born. How are you making them loyal and increasing your retention?
I think there's definitely the product first is key to play with the retention. So how do we engage them further with specific content, with live ops, with timed events? Push notification indeed allows you to re-engage those type of users, to remind them of the great content, constantly updating and refreshing as well, adding new content to the game so the top user can keep spending as well. But a lot of little tricks in terms of temporary or promoted offer as well, creating some more challenges, creating real or fake multiplayer modes are also important there to create some sort of
Mm-hmm.
competition and a wish to come back. And then with Wordling, for example, one of our latest game acquired, it's a kind of daily Wordle type of game. So of course you have this kind of calendar completion target. It's a little bit like you want to complete your daily meditation and you've got an incentive
Mm-hmm.
of doing it candy. It's the same with Wordling. You want to keep challenging your friend and you want to see your calendar getting full weekly. Offering some sort of welcome back reward, also very important and very fruitful for RPG games in a sense. And then for the other type of hyper casual games, it's also playing with the ad pressure. So how do we get cleaner ads, less intrusive ads? And this topic we covered like 3 weeks ago when we had the ad quality
Yeah.
podcast. How do we make sure that we monetize them well with ads, but those ads are not churning them too fast or too quickly? So really the quality of partners, the frequency of ads, and the ad template as well, as we discussed. How long does it take for the
Mm-hmm.
users to be able to exit the ads? Those are all that together combined, in addition with the product roadmap, the product development, and stickiness of our progression into the game, is what's helping us to uh, target towards those longer term retention, and finally be able as
Mm-hmm.
well to invest into users that will stay there longer, might not be break even from the first or second months, and will be taking longer time, but in the end are the sticky users and are the type of users that will allow us to grow and maintain the strong user base over time. Yes.
You mentioned the win back reward, a reward for coming back. Um, I'd be really interested to know what that looks like a bit more, because I've been talking to a lot of people in the industry and they're saying, we have to get our head around how we retarget and welcome someone back. Because if you make it not dissimilar to what it was before, then it's like I'm just coming back and it's the same old, same old. So it's not just like having that moment and that reward, but it has to be different. The experience has to be different. You're winning me back to something that's not the same experience. That's what I've heard we need to do. What are your thoughts and what are you actually doing? I'm curious.
Creating a custom experience, creating a different experience every time, as you said, as you're sending a reward, is starting to be more complex things that we're starting to do in collaboration with the product and the live upside. And how do we create and segment those type of users when they engage with their welcome back reward? How do we diversify that content? And that's actually requiring a lot of data work, segmentation. How do we track the different events into our games? How we create bucket and attribute? You have through MMP, you can attribute event progression. So how do we measure those event progression and make sure that when we welcome back a user, we attribute that reward that is linked to where he has been already in the game, as you reach level 5, level 10 or 15, what purchases he made, what kind of content has he unlocked, so the reward associated with that. So we're getting more granular. But for those type of users, it's worth it. As soon as a user becomes a paying users, you really get the time to segment that type of users and create that custom experience. And in terms of custom experience, I think it starts also after, of course, welcoming back the user and trading back in the game, but it starts also from the beginning. Nowadays we're starting to really look at the creative interaction and the creative quality and the user quality based on the creative. What are we showing on the creative? Are we showing more of a IP content unlocking purchase type of mechanism that can show the users that they can upgrade faster in the game? Are we showing more higher battle or less focused IP creative? And that will drive a different type of user into the game, as well as the passes in between the app install and the creative is also the landing page on the Apple or Google Play Store. And today with the custom product pages, you're getting very much the possibility to tailor and customize the experience you're showing to your user, and that is having a big impact for us. Those custom product pages, so based on ABC creative, we're going to show them a same screenshot landing page on the Play Store, so that they find it in correlation with the type of ads they have been seeing and are much likely to install, so that helps us increase our install rate, our CTR as well. So we can start to customize the whole user journey, from the click, from the ads impression to the store landing page, with those custom product pages that are showing specific moment of the game, specific colors, or specific level compared to what they saw, and make them feeling that they're continuing to see the same experience until the gameplay. And now we're working towards even a final step is, if a user has seen this creative, how do we bring him to a specific point in the game, even if it's the first time opening, or a specific user level? So how we start tailoring the first FTUE, the first time onboarding, and user experience with a slightly different game experience based on what they saw.
You got to bring them from the creative to a specific part of the game. I guess that's deep linking, right?
Yeah, that's deep linking, correct. So that plays a lot for retargeting strategy.
Yeah.
You left here, you have uh, this weapon and this wallet still living there. Why don't you upgrade this weapon? Why don't we reach this level that you left at a certain point? So they're really arriving at a tailor moment in the game where they feel like we feel it's the most engaging moment, and they're more likely to keep replaying the game, also with some specific content or reward.
Vincent, can I flip that and look at this from a monetization point of view? Because you talk about segmentation, and it's like that retention and valuing your players. You were the VP of monetization, and we speak to so many people on the podcast who are doing different things with monetization. There are so many new options out there now, from brands, brand takeovers to offer walls, and everything in between. What's Tap Nation looking at, and how are you using this kind of hybrid monetization to really maximize that engagement, that retention with your players?
There's definitely two ways. There's I would say the heavy ad monetization strategy, which fits very well with a hyper casual game, and on the other side there's more the hybrid casual game strategy, where the monetization also is becoming much more complement with the IP. So it's kind of two approach, but starting with the hyper casual and kind of heavy ad monetization. Indeed, my background has been like for 10 years in the ad-based monetization. So I've seen few companies worked on a mediation side as well, where I was able to really observe and see all the trends from the top publisher out there in the market. And that's also partly why also TapNation wanted me on board to help build that ad monetization team, so I could finally play with all the learning and apply all the strategy that I've observed and witnesses out there in the industry. But in my first 2 years at TapNation, one of our strategy was really to diversify the ad revenue format and sources. So we've been very early tester and adopter and scaling, for example, the audio ads and in-game ads that you can see out there in the market. So the in-game ads are the kind of intrinsic, immersive billboard ads that are very easy to add on a 3D games, on a runner, for example, or on a driving racing car range, because they are like as a billboard. And those are interesting, especially in tier one countries, where you can see a good complementary revenue without impacting at all the user experience, and even creating a more real world environment. Audio ads have also been very powerful for us, because even on a 2D games, you can just display a small icon, square icon, on the top corner, and play the ads during the gameplay. So we saw that there was no impact on the user retention, and it was very complementary revenue. So we observed for the top games and geos somewhere between 5 to 8% of share of wallet coming from audio ads, and that's the same in terms of LTV uplift. Yeah, for sure. And you can play with the frequency, and I think it also creates somehow a sort of live environment, because now you're playing your games. Let's say Ice Cream, for example, game that we have. you are in your shop and you hear that kind of Starbucks ad in the background. So it makes your shop very lively, very much radio-like style environment. So those are today kind of solid additional formats. And as a step, as you mentioned, the direct brand is also now important. I think we've reached the size of a studio that can sell and have enough volume to talk directly to brands, direct advertisers, and agencies. I was in the Cannes Lions last June for the second year now, and it's been very fruitful. We can see those advertisers, those brands, like getting more and more excited with gaming. I think esport evolution, Web3 evolution, as well as the high adoption of some large platform. We talk about Roblox or Fortnite is really making now the brand willing to reach that huge audience and interact there. So we really want to position ourselves as the same version for mobile game. Some of the big players out there on mobile are already talking with brand, already creating some sort of partnerships, and we work ourselves with McDonald's, for example, directly on in-game ads. We work with L'Oreal on video ads, and there have been like very successful campaign in France or in the US. And so we opening up our inventory on classic ad format, I would say like in-game video ads or banner ads to increase the competition, increase our average CPM so we can have strong uplift for the time of the campaign in the given country. But on top of that, we also want to make the final step of a more immersive ads, like what you can see on the big platform that I just mentioned previously. We want to customize the game and the whole user experience. So in ice cream, instead of being in a random shop, you'll be entering a Haagen-Dazs shop. You'll be pouring some Haagen-Dazs flavor on a Haagen-Dazs cone. So it's a month or 2 months takeover. We can track the number of impressions. We can track the number of unique users. We can create some redirection as well. And we have several brands we're talking to at the moment, Red Bull, Pizza Hut, who are willing to create some sort of integration in our games as a customization of our game. And I think that's the final way you want a brand and the users to interact together. Is not just a brand pushing an ad or getting a reward towards the moment, but it's really the whole gameplay, the whole game experience is now centralized around the ad, where you play with the product, you play with the brand, and improve your brand affinity. So those are definitely strong leverage of growing our monetization. And on the IP and casual games front, we're also finding some other ways to complement how maybe can we sell our data points to some of the users. How do we create those kind of custom integration that are opening up a different set of advertisers than just gaming, but also brands, advertiser, as I mentioned. And then it's a lot about the testing, but I can go a bit later into that, how we customize our IAP offering in order to match better each user.
Games, brands, they belong together, but they're not together yet. I don't know what it is. They're just not in rhythm. They're not in that dance. They're not in that groove. And one of the reasons is also when you talk to the brands, it's the ad experience, but also it's about the data. Now you are doing both. You have an understanding of the journey, you have an understanding of the data, so you're filling in both of those. But another one is consent. Very, very concerned that people are consenting and opting in. I've spoken with some people in AdMon and they're like, no, CMPs, it's not good. It's impacting our revenues in a negative way because you have that opt out. You're into experience, you're into testing. How are you dealing with CMP and what are you seeing?
We started experimenting with the consent with Apple ATT for sure, and that had a big impact on opt-in on iOS. Some games see 20% opt-in, while we're lucky for some of the games to see 60% opt-in, but it's still 60% is still very low from originally what users tend to be automated consent. Now with GDPR, TCF2 requirement coming out, you also have to adapt all your European users into a new type of consent and to a more fair consenting methodology. Obviously, all publishers used to have 99% or 100% of consent because you could show or at least force the users into accepting. Nowadays, since a year, there's a lot of different CMPs that came in, and we've been seeing quite a few different partners, paid one, free ones out there in the market, we ourselves A/B tested 3 different CMPs to get an idea of the user experience, the price, but also more especially the concentrate. So we ended up going out with Google CMP. I think it was kind of a easy customizable one. You could of course, it was free as well, so that played a little bit in the balance, even though the other one are not too expensive. But in terms of stability of integration and stability of concentrate across 2-3 games where we tested, we have observed a good 85 to 95% concentrate on GDPR. So I think, of course, you can customize and give the users the possibility to accept all or manage, but not refuse, of course, or decline directly. I think that's part of the tricks to maximize your concentrate. And yeah, so far it's been, let's say we minimize the impact. So you still have 10% of users who will not consent to it and can have an impact, will have an impact on the CPM, generally between 10 to 30% lower. But luckily, we kept those users very minimal amount. So I would say that was a fair experience. People tend to see CMPs on the web, online, and kind of know the template of Google that is widely used. So it creates sort of trust. I don't know if it's fair or if it should be, but in a way that helps us observe a good conversion and acceptance rate. Yeah.
So it's not 100%, but it's not the 2030 that we were hearing about. What was it, a year and a half ago? The horror stories that it was dropping off a cliff. And you did your testing and it paid off. So obviously you're growing. Demands on companies, on studios is growing. We just talked about CMP or trying to court the brands. What about Tap Nation? What is your main target over the next 12 months in terms of player growth, revenue, engagement growth, retention? Give us an idea. So maybe we can call you on it in 12 months. No, I'm just kidding. We won't do that. But where do you see it? What's your target?
TapNation has really ambitious targets. We want accelerated growth. One of our key criteria as well is profitability. So how do we maintain high ROAS in sort of finding the good balance between ROAS and revenue, but high ROAS in terms of profitability and not only gross margin, but also company profitability at the end of the year. This is really what's going to determine the value of a company. So we are leaning towards that. So remaining a lean team, agile team. But in terms of growth, from last year, I think the goal is this year to reach 20 to 30% increase of revenue. And for next year, our target is really to double our EBITDA and company margin. So I think we're in a good position now with strong acquisition, as I mentioned, Hero Making Tycoon, Hero Adventure, Worldling, that are games that have a solid future potential, and with who we're doubling. One of those games we just multiply by 3 the UA between Q2 and Q3 starts. So we're really getting ready here to boost the revenue from that side. And where is our growth laying is obviously by diversification of game. As I mentioned, new UA channel, new typology of game and typology of users. But also we're looking also at all the alternative possibilities, so alternative stores. You hear about Huawei Xiaomi. You hear about Amazon Fire OS that's been opening and that is growing surely there. It's also an interesting source of additional revenue. You hear about HTML5 and Web Store. How do we show mini games into chat apps, and how do we display our games on all the main web portal and content provider. YouTube is opening YouTube Playable, for example. We have seen opportunity growing in China as well, so we're positioning ourselves out there. So yeah, it's important as well to have this kind of holistic and overall picture now. A couple of our games were shipped to Nintendo console as well, so we're getting a little bit outside of mobile, even though our focus remains strongly on mobile. So yeah, company is ready to, in the next 2 years, to double overall revenue, double the profitability of the company, while structuring the team with more central around quality production and qualified developer team. That's what's going to bring us really to the path of targets we have for the coming 3 to 4 years.
Fantastic. We cannot fault your ambition. And if any company out there can do it, it certainly sounds like you guys are well positioned.
It's definitely been a tough past year or 2 years with the, especially this year with the macroeconomy environment. As we know, the seasonality has been very strong in Q1 and Q2, so ECPM are down and scalability has been impacted a little bit, but our resilience, the fact that we remain agile and small team, and the profitability make us like ready when the start is getting back, when it's recovering from. I think I have good hope for recovering as soon as September, and for Q4 and the next year seems a bit more promising. Hopefully, we're ready and in the starting blocks to get boosted, and the overall team behind us. Yes.
All the different alternatives that you're looking into, that some people aren't taking as seriously. They're saying, yes, it exists, but you're jumping in there with both feet. It's almost like, yeah, you're almost like a microcosm of your own Olympics, Vincent, going for gold.
We move ahead, and then after we judge, but we don't take much time to take decision with overlay management process. So that's the way of everybody keeping foot on the ground, hands on the product and the industry, and and we're learning thanks to you as well, guys. All those podcasts and those very fruitful industry event is everywhere where we can learn from each other peers, and we understand where the opportunity lays. But of course, like good game is what's gonna drive growth. So we're keeping on acquisition outside of publishing, as I mentioned, and that's an important point. Actually, I should not forget is the acquisition. All those latest three titles that I mentioned, or RPG game or Wordling, they were acquired from existing companies. There's a lot of studio out there or publisher out there that are either struggling financially, or struggling to do the right user acquisition, or struggling to do the right monetization, or don't have enough resources to engage in the next 12 months roadmap for their product. And that's how publishing and acquisition team is doing a great job of sourcing all those studios, and which really transforming into a more of a M&A, let's say, publisher now, where we're able to do hybrid between publishing and acquisition, and increase the number of games, increase the possibility of games that we are reaching and ingesting into our portfolio, and working hand in hand with those existing studio in transition, or in keeping growing their title with potential on out there.
So, Vincent, thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure, and we could go on, but sadly we're going to have to bring things to an end. Now, because you were on the podcast a very few episodes ago, we've already asked and know your favourite current game and your game of all time. So I'm going to ask two different questions, only slightly, but hopefully they'll get you thinking. What was your biggest disappointment in gaming, and are there any games coming up that you're looking forward to?
It's a good question. I've been following some of the new release that are out there closely, but I need to think again for this question to be more accurate. So let me rephrase briefly, or maybe I'll give you a quick recording post the interview, because there's tons of things that I need to follow up, and then recently I've been playing a bit less games.
So I guess we just wrap it up and say, wow, Vincent, I'm speechless, and that takes a lot. Brian can attest to that. The goals in mind, the work with the brands, the integration with the brands has me very, very excited. So guess who's coming back, Brian? I can imagine.
I think we're going to have to, Peggy. It's really clear. There's so much more here. We've only scratched the surface. So, yes, Vincent, as soon as the summer's over and Paris is a little less crazy, we would love to have you back. We would love to, pick your brains a little further.
I was excited as well to be with you here today, guys. Thanks so much for giving us the chance to give a little bit more light and insight into what TapNation here and where we're heading next. So always a joy to participate. Thanks so much, and a good summer, Olympic summer to you too, guys.
This show is all about how to do your job better, how to make an amazing game, how to market it, and you have a say. So if you have a story or know someone we need to shine a light on, then we would love to hear from you.
We want to hear from you. We want to reflect the reality of the mobile games market in all its wonderful complexity and strangeness. So if you have any suggestions for us, if you have any feedback for us, you can always get in touch. You can email us at podcast@pocketgamer.biz. You can find us on Twitter @PGBiz, and you can reach out to us through the pocketgamer.biz website. If you're interested in listening to all of our podcasts, you can find them at pocketgamer.biz/podcast, and we would love to hear your thoughts on future shows.
And we've got you covered on all the major platforms, so subscribe to the audio podcast, as Brian said. Look for us on YouTube. If you want to read it, hey, you can do that too, because we have a companion post for you as well on the pocketgamer.biz website.
Tune in again for the next edition of the pocketgamer.biz podcast, and we look forward to speaking to you in the near future.